Hi, Van Kaplan here, executive producer of Pittsburgh CLO. Thank you for joining us live on Facebook for Close-Ups, Cocktails and Conversations, where you can enjoy happy hour with some of our most notable alumni and maybe a performance or two. For 75 years, the Pittsburgh CLO has been bringing people together to celebrate musical theater, and we will again soon. All of us at CLO hope that you and your loved ones are safe and managing these difficult times. We look forward to seeing you again at the theater.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mark Fleischer, producing director. So excited for you to join us for this first episode of CLO Close-Ups, Cocktails and Conversation. I hope your workday has been good, and I hope you've gotten your favorite end of workday beverage as we're here. We're going to have some cocktails. We're going to have some great conversation. First of all, I do want to say we're sending you all some good wishes for safety and health. I hope everyone watching is doing well, and we can't wait to gather again as an audience. Look, this show has come together because we want to reach out to you, our audiences. We miss you, and we can't wait to see you again. But we're not ones to sit at home and throw our hands up, so we've used technology to our advantage to launch this television show, as it were, this streaming show, and this is Close-Ups. It's going to be a behind-the-scenes conversations with notable alumni and performers and staff members, and help you learn a little bit more about CLO, but also just to have some great conversation and fun at this time. Today our special guest, of course, is Clay Aiken. We also will have Kiesha Lalama from the Education Department, our Director of Community Engagement, and Lara Hayhurst, who you've probably seen on the Cabaret and Byam stages in our shows. In subsequent weeks, we've already got some other guests lined up, from Richard Thomas to Beth Level, Patrick Page, and Paige Davis. So we hope you'll be a part of that. And then every week we'll have our closing cabaret moment, where someone will share a song that they've created. So I hope you'll mark your calendars. Join us every Thursday at 5 p.m. There's also an easy way to remember it. At the end of this show, you'll have an opportunity to click a link that says you're interested in learning about future episodes, and Facebook will just send you a reminder on its own. I also want to give a shout out to Olivia O'Connor, our manager of new work development. She has another part of this CLO Close-Up. She's doing Spark the Conversation. Spark is Pittsburgh CLO's effort at new musical development. So she's going to be talking to writers and composers and lyricists who've worked with CLO about the process of writing musicals and what they're doing at this time. You can catch that at 3 p.m. on Tuesdays. And finally, you don't just have to watch. You can be a part of this. If you look in the comments section, you can feed in some questions. Let us know you're here, that you're watching, and maybe you get a chance to ask Clay Aiken a question as we go through. So with that, I'm excited. This is great. Let's have our toast, and let's move on to our first guest, Clay Aiken, who you, of course, know from American Idol, and a singer of great renown, and also from last summer playing Teen Angel in Grease. It is my I'm so excited to welcome for my first guest ever on this show, Clay Aiken.
Hello.
Hey!
Hello, Mark. How are you?
Good. More importantly, how are you, sir?
I'm well. You got your own talk show now?
I know. I've always wanted one, but I'm no Colbert. But we're going to see. Look, it's great to have you.
It's early days. It really could.
Oh yeah,
this could blow up.
If this theater thing doesn't work out, you never know. So I'm thrilled that you're with us. How are you doing? You said you're well.
I'm doing well. Yeah, we're like everyone else, hunkered down and trying to decide whether I'm going to keep the house clean or let it just go to.
Well, I understand.
That's going to separate the two. That's going to separate America into two factions: those whose houses are spotless after this is over, and those who you have to dig out of the rubble. And I may be in the second group. I'm not going to lie.
No one's going to see it for a while because of our social distancing. So you've got a little time to make up your mind which one you're going to be.
That's true. But that's why one of the many, many, many reasons I need this to hurry up and be over is because if it lasts too much longer, they're going to need the jaws of life to get me out of this house.
Now, are you the kind of person that likes time alone?
Listen, anyone who knows me knows that I am a professional hermit.
Oh, really?
I don't leave the house anyway. So that part has not been an issue to me. I have been perfectly fine to stay at home by myself, and I've been renovating a house, so I am perfectly occupied with getting stuff like that done. But there's something about, even though I am a professional hermit and totally a recluse, there's something about being forced into it that makes you psychologically hate it anyway.
Right.
Even though I know when that's my choice, I'll stay at home. But don't you tell me I have to. Then I get real frustrated.
No, wait. I just heard you said you're renovating. Are you handy? Are you doing tiling? You knocking down walls?
I have become handy. There's nothing you can't learn on YouTube, Mark. It really
that's true.
It's you can do it. I mean, I haven't knocked down any walls, but I have. Well, no, that's not true. I have knocked down a big chunk of a wall and had to completely re-sheetrock it and re-plaster and spackle and all that stuff I've done. I've painted every surface in the house, some of them twice because I painted the whole room, didn't like it. The walls had a textured, very Golden Girls Miami textured plaster on them. I scraped all the walls, completely skimmed. I am very butch now. I'm just saying.
I see there's a future HGTV show in this.
I don't think that anything that I'm doing is anything that I should advise others to do. It's working, and it's a slow going, but I'm not a professional.
Do you sing while you work? Are you whistling while you work? Are you keeping the music going for yourself?
No, I listen. It's very funny when people. I've never been a big. That sounds insane to say it, but I've never been a big music person. I usually have the news on. But I can't stand it anymore, so I don't watch it either. So I have just let repeats of The Office play in the background on Netflix, and I have been through all 9 seasons twice now since this quarantine started, and I'm on my 3rd go round. I'm in season 2 of my 3rd. I'm not joking. That's not.
So that's just sort of you. See, I do the same thing with Frasier.
It's like having friends. You got to be stuck at home by yourself. Yep. It's like having friends in the house with you.
That's good. That's good. Well, I really appreciate this. We want to chat a little bit about your time in Pittsburgh, as it were. Now, those who hopefully got to see you play Teen Angel, and as you may or may not know, everyone listening, Clay won the BroadwayWorld.com Pittsburgh's Best Actor in a Musical for Teen Angel. Did you not know that?
I did not know that.
Apparently, you have a lot of fans in Pittsburgh that voted for you. And I know, as you were very humble when you were here, about the amount of time you spent on stage in the show, and actually one of the reviewers,
it was lovely.
I know. We'll talk about the time you spent in the dressing room, but one of the reviewers said, as Teen Angel in Pittsburgh CLO's production of Grease, Clay Aiken is only on stage for about 5 minutes. Those 5 minutes, however, are fabulous. So I hope you had a good time with that. What I wanted to actually talk about was your interpretation of Teen Angel. So before we get to that, I had them put together this slide of previous Teen Angels. So let's bring that up, Sid. So what we have here, of course, is starting in the upper corner is Frankie Avalon from the movie. We have Taylor Hicks, another American Idol who did it. The Boys to Men, who were in the live version, and Billy Porter, one of our favorite Pittsburgh Sons, in the Broadway revival. Now, that's their interpretation of this. Let's roll a little tape to see how you did Teen Angel for us. Go ahead, Sid. Beauty school dropout.
I think I owe that award back to them.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Now, I remember from when you came in and we started Time at the Role, and with director, choreographer Barry Ivan, you had some really distinct ideas of what you wanted to do with this role. And what was those sort of backgrounds and things that were important to you?
Well, musically, Billy Porter to me is the beginning and the end of Teen Angel. I obviously watched the movie growing up, and Frankie Valli is a legend, but Billy Porter really is. That's what the 1992 Grease that he was in on Broadway. That was his version of Teen Angel, and Beauty School Dropout is the one that I live and die by. So I knew I wanted to kind of musically do it a little bit more like him, not exactly, but a little bit more like him. And then I think just the character. It's kind of funny to put so much backstory into a character that takes such little time on stage and such a very small, insignificant portion of the storyline, so to speak. But, Teen Angel has been played, as I have now an 11-year-old and have clicked over the 40 mark myself. I am starting to realize how old I'm getting and how, it's been 17 years since I did American Idol. It doesn't feel like that long sometimes, and other times it feels like longer. But, it's been quite a while since I came into this world in the way that I think most people know me for. And so I've noticed I don't quite necessarily get some of the YouTube stuff that my child does. I look around and see what's popular. You know, I'm in several group text threads with people, and they're always showing me some meme with somebody on it. I'm like, who is that? And it's apparently somebody really famous. And I'm so old, I don't realize that. And I think that is sort of what that's sort of how Frenchie's and all her friends at Rydell High, that's who Teen Angel really was to them. Frankie Valli in the late 70s, when the movie Grease came out, was no longer a current teen idol. He was a former teen idol. And okay, let's go ahead and admit it, Clay. You're a former teen idol. And so I didn't want to embrace my own, I didn't necessarily want to embrace my own obscurity, but I recognize that was really sort of the part of, that was really what the crux of that character is. Mm-hmm. And so to me, trying to meld my knowledge of that and meld the musical stylings of how Billy played it on Broadway. Liberace came to mind, the Behind the Candelabra series that had been on TV. So Barry Ivan and I, the director, sat and talked about, someone who would have been perhaps the equivalent for me of an old idol. I mean, I'm not saying that I grew up admiring and wanting to be Liberace, but let's be honest, a young Ye guy who is incredibly famous in the 50s, he seemed like I don't know, it just came to mind. It came to mind as the perfect analog to what the Teen Angel would be for me. So we sort of went in a very Liberace direction with it. And I love Barry, who was the director, and he was so supportive of just really taking it all the way to the edge and then going a little bit further in how camp it was. And so we had a great time. The platform shoes, I don't think made it all the way through the end of the run. Gosh, I couldn't quite survive in them, but we had the ascot that got added on and extra glitter and this big, I mean, he was great at letting it really just be as Liberace-ish as possible.
I have to say, as a producer of the show, watching you come down those stairs in those high heels was always a nervous. So part of me that was okay.
Workers' comp.
Just part of me that was okay that those went away. But again, hey, Sid, I think you have a picture of this to show how far we went. It gives you a little more sense. I mean, look at that. I'm sorry that you weren't having a good time with us, but if you look at that wig and the vest and the platform shoes are just coming in underneath that. But
they brought in a few rings for me to choose. You can't see the rings in that picture, but they brought in a few rings and said, if you want to wear a ring, here's some options. And I said, one. And I ended up every night had my entire hand full of rings. Rings on every finger. We just made it as gaudy. And I mean, the costume jewelry department was working overtime to keep Teen Angel dressed.
Well, you certainly made an entrance. So I hope you had a good time in Pittsburgh. Would you come back?
I did. No, listen, I did Spam-A-Lot on Broadway in 08. Wait, or 08. Oh, I don't know what day it is today.
It's Blur's Day, as a friend says now.
I did that in 08. I've done maybe one or two other theater things, and I have always been incredibly selective. I've spent a lot of time on the road over the past 17 years touring, and it's difficult to feel comfortable in a new place when you're only there for a short period of time. So I'm always hesitant, but I will say that I've had experiences in the past at other theaters and have thought, okay, well, that'll be the last time I do that. And that was the opposite of how I felt in Pittsburgh. I mean, it was Pittsburgh's a beautiful place to be in the summer in general because it's not as hot as it is here. I mean, it's deadly right now in North Carolina. It's been 90 degrees and humid as mess over the last few days. But Pittsburgh's a great place to be in the summer. And then just the company, Pittsburgh CLO in general, everybody there was so incredible to work with, so easy to work with. The cast was really at the top of their game, and everyone was really wonderful and delightful to spend time with in general. So, you put together a cast as good as that one, and I'll come back.
Oh, I'm sure I would love it. I know I would love working with you again. And it's so great to hear those comments that, we work really hard, not just on what happens in front of the house, but the experience for artists to be able to do their best work. And I know, from housing to travel to the hours, making sure that actors are taken care of so they can do what they're able to do best matters.
Yeah, especially when you're not living at home, when
Right.
you're staying in a hotel, or a
Right.
very nice
Right.
furnished apartment, even
Right.
still, it's not home.
It's
And
not home.
there's just not, there are times when I've been on the road on my own tour where you just feel like you're out of place. And so you're not able to get comfortable in what you're able to do. And doing a part like, well, any of them. I mean, Danny
Right.
Zuko, Sandy, they're not as shticky maybe as Teen Angel, but all of those characters, you have to kind of be comfortable enough in general in your life to be willing to become somebody
Right.
else and have that confidence. And that comes not just from the fact that the director and the
Right.
producer have to be able to put you in that comfort zone, which you guys were able to do, and Barry as a director was able to do. But, it also helps to know that, okay, everything else is taken care of also. And the folks who are there, Abram, who has helped with, the whole company management
Right.
team really just did a great job of me knowing, okay, you know what? I had my dog with me. How wonderful was that to be able to do that? So you're right. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that people don't think about necessarily, but there's a lot more that goes into it than just putting on some gaudy sequin brooch and getting hoisted up by two strapping young men.
Yes. Well, that's great. I do want to switch gears a bit, because one of the things I enjoyed talking with you about when you were in Pittsburgh was your background as a special needs teacher that you did. And you said you left the classroom, right? You haven't been back officially in the classroom. Well, I guess you're teaching now.
I am now, although I will say the most painful thing that my child has ever said to me in my life was this week when we were working on homeschooling, and he said, "I thought you were a teacher before."
No.
I don't know this new math. I never was any good at math. Yes, I was once upon a time in the classroom, and I was a special ed teacher before Idle, and that's what I went to school for. That's what I thought my whole life would end up being, and then I clearly detoured.
Well, someone said once, life is what happens while you're making other plans. So, make some plans.
Right.
But you channel it, though. You're still working in that field with the National Inclusion Network, right? And this group that you've helped start. And I've been thinking a lot about it. Pittsburgh CLO, we're going to have Kiesha Lalama on next. And we have a group called New Horizons, which is theater training for special needs individuals, adults, and children. But this time, as you're looking at this time where people are being kept at home and aren't able to go out and see, a population that needs some regularity in scheduling, but also social, what are your concerns, or what are you hearing through the network about this time and its impact or potential impact?
Yeah, well, there's a whole bunch of places to go with that question. National Inclusion Project came out of a desire to make sure that kids with disabilities were included. I was a special needs teacher before Idle. I went into Idle, and some of the kids in the summer camps that I used to work in between school years were not able. I'd have them in the class in the school year, and they weren't able to come to the summer camp. So our goal was to be able to help theater programs, summer camp programs, after school programs, sports programs, any sort of extracurricular activity, include kids with disabilities into those programs. So we train all of those types of extracurricular programs in how to include kids with disabilities. We try to give them resources for their staff so that their staff can help include kids with disabilities. And we accredit programs so that teachers and parents of children with special needs can identify, this particular theater program has a wonderful inclusive environment, and this is somewhere you can go to. To answer your question about, the needs of individuals with disabilities during a crisis like this, I'm going to be completely frank. It's almost always the underserved populations that get left out first in a situation like this. So obviously there are lots of needs for individuals with disabilities. There's stories in the New York Times this week about group homes in New York, especially where the virus has taken hold inside the group home, and therefore it's very difficult to get people who are able to work with individuals with special needs. I think it's important. Obviously, it's very difficult to try to express to people how important the needs of others are when we are all right now so concerned with making sure we're healthy and making sure our families are healthy. But I will say this, because I don't want to try to pretend to tell anyone that they should be worrying about somebody else other than their own health and their own family's health right now. But what I think is really interesting to me, and I think we will probably touch on more with the National Inclusion Project as we hopefully move through this crisis, is what National Inclusion Project was started for, what our mission has been about, is making sure that kids and teenagers and individuals with disabilities don't get left on the sidelines, don't get left out of the things that we normally take for granted. And the fact is, all of us who are sitting at home feeling incredibly isolated right now, I can't tell you to care about somebody other than yourself. I'm just not stupid.
Right.
But I can remind people, hopefully later, that this isolation that we feel today when we're stuck at home is exactly what we're trying to prevent with kids with disabilities all year round. And so in a way, it's a little bit of a wake-up call and a little bit of a taste. I hope that people can remember after this is hopefully very soon over, that kids with disabilities, what we're going through right now of feeling stuck and by ourselves and alone, it sucks. But it'll end for us, and it only ends for those individuals and kids with disabilities if we actually make the effort to make sure it does after this is all over. So that's what we'll be continuing to do with National Inclusion Project after we're all able to get back to our normal lives. We want to try to make sure that those kids have the opportunities and don't feel left out still.
Right. Well, thank you. I mean, that's a really interesting angle that you're saying, that what we're feeling now is something they're feeling. That's an interesting way to take a moment to, be in those shoes, as it were, and recognize that is happening, and how you guys are working at the National Inclusion Project to work it. Well, Clay, I appreciate, your time. We've got one more segment we like to do here, brand new. I know it's a new show. We already have a segment.
Like to do it. I'm like, when did you do it before?
We haven't done it before. You're a guinea pig
is what you're saying. Just admit it.
Yes, it's called Thank You 5. Thank you 5. So this is for our audience that, when the stage manager says it's 5 minutes to places, everyone backstage yells, thank you 5. So what we've decided to do is do 5 questions at the end of your interview. Okay. Simple. Actually, one of the things I think you've kind of
answered. I've never said that before. Thank you 5. I guess I probably should start saying it.
You echo back. Thank you 5. Thank you places. I know. Well, someone gets you to the stage. They just make sure you're...
Well, you remember in Greece, I was still taking a nap at 5 places, so I didn't even get dressed till intermission.
I know. We just had to get you there. So, question 1, what's your dream role? Do you have a dream role in musical theater?
Yeah, it's too late for it, though. My dream role in musical theater was Huck Finn in Big River, but I am well past the expiration date for that. So it's literally going to stay in a dream.
We can talk to Barry Ivan. There might be a concept musical for that.
Right, we have to cut my legs off at the knees. No one realizes I'm 6'1". Everybody thinks I'm shorter. So I don't think I could pull off Huck Finn unless you really got someone gigantic to play Jim.
There you go. What about a role you'd like to revive? Something you've done before you'd love the chance to do again?
Well, again, I haven't done too much before. Honestly, I'm trying to think. Okay, I didn't love being Joseph in the Joseph, so that's out. Spamalot was very hard. I tell you what, one of my favorite characters ever but I got lucky enough to play was Man in Chair in Drowsy Chaperone.
Oh, really?
He's a beautiful, beautiful character, and there's something sweetly simple about him. I didn't sing in that role, which was, again, sort of different for me, but maybe that's why I liked it. It was a little bit different, but I loved that. So I'm going to say that for my answer.
All right, Man in Chair, what a great show. What about, you've already talked about napping, but what is something you have to have in your dressing room?
Oh, God. Well, okay, so I am a news junkie, and so I will admit, I did take the TV out of the hotel that y'all were so nice to put me in. I did take it out of that hotel and bring it to my dressing room and hook up my my streaming box so I could watch TV and watch the news in there. So, but I put it back. Don't worry.
Okay, great. Well, nobody called looking for the deposit, so I guess we're okay. And you kind of answered this, but what are you listening to or watching to get you through this challenging time? You talked about The Office, but is there anything else?
I'm a Supreme Court junkie. I'm a real nerd on the Supreme Court. So on Supreme Court things. So there's several books that I have been listening to on tape. I admit I'm going back through The 9 by Jeffrey Toobin right now, but I have been listening to Supreme Court related books on tape while I'm painting or sheetrock drywall spackling something.
Oh, great. And our final question, first place you'll go once we're allowed to gather together.
Ooh, I don't go anywhere anyway. Lord,
Just
I really
outside
don't.
the grocery store.
I guess I'm probably going to go out to eat somewhere because, gosh, you know what? I am looking forward to Broadway in general reopening. I haven't been to a show in quite a while, so I will probably, I may go to the grocery store first, but I think my first big event will be to go to some sort of theatrical performance somewhere.
Oh, well, I hope we're all sitting in the audience with you, and I hope at some point we get to sit in the audience and watch you perform again. Thank you so much, Clay, for being a part of this, being my guinea pig as my first guest
Happy
ever.
to do it. Happy to do it.
Send me your notes, whatever you got.
This is gonna be a hit. I'm gonna watch next week.
Well, good. Well, good luck with the homeschooling. I'm sure you're going to learn to be a good teacher.
Wish him luck, not me.
Oh yeah, wish him luck. It's only his future, the future, right?
Right.
Right. Well, thanks, Clay. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Mark.
Appreciate it. All right. What a fun chat. So, we had Clay, and now, kind of segueing in it, we have Kiesha Lalama, who is our Director of Community Engagement, joining me, who's been working with CLO, and we're going to talk a little bit about the education programs at the CLO. Kiesha, are you with us? Hey, hey, friend.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
How's it going? I miss seeing you in the office.
I know we don't see each other in the office. So Kiesha's a colleague and great confidant and plotter, as it were. So I just want to chat a little bit about you before we go to, if you don't mind. So how long have you been with the CLO?
I've been director of community engagement for a couple years now, education for 14, but I've actually been a part of the organization since I was 18 years old.
Right.
So I don't want to tell you how long that's been.
It was 5 years ago. It's all good.
5 years, that's all.
5 years. And how are you doing? You're doing okay? We talk every once in a while, I know, still in the midst of this working from home.
We're good. I mean, it's a little busier than normal, actually, but it's great. It's kind of made us change the way we're thinking, which actually can become innovative and really quite profoundly different in a good way. So it's good.
So before we get into the sort of what the CLO Academy is doing now, because I imagine we have some listeners, can you talk about what the CLO Academy is pre the COVID-19 situation, so that people get a sense of the scope and the 7 or 8 and 10, 12 education programs you're running out of that department?
Yeah, absolutely. So the CLO Academy is one of the top training institutions in the country. We offer training in dance, acting, voice, musical theater production. We even do acting for film, television, commercials for the kids and those kinds of things as well. And it's a great way to also learn just basic social skills. So communication with others, working with others, building self-confidence is a really big one and important. So it gives you an opportunity to really expand far beyond musical theater, but allow those skills to translate over to your normal, everyday people skills to be successful in life.
Right. And that's kind of, but you also have, with the Gene Kelly Awards and so many things that we're doing. And Guy of Heroes in the schools. So when this happened and we all began working at home, going on 3, 4, I don't know what day is it, right? It became a challenge for you, and also not just a challenge, but a mission. How do we hang on to these students? Because you serve so many students and so many different populations, as you heard me when we were chatting with Clay. What are some of the things you've done to try to make sure that you still have these students get these opportunities? And what was it about this that your faculty and you really were striving for in this challenge?
Yeah, I mean, I think the number one thing for us was, how do you stay connected with the students, and how can you maintain that connectivity, security, and stability that they have with their family at the CLO. So many of these kids feel like the CLO is, their distant family. These are their friends. The students are their peers, their friends, their family. But then the faculty is very much a mentor. And I can't imagine, I think our sense of urgency was to make sure that we offered these students a sense of security and consistency and stability, like I said, but as quickly, as swiftly, and as possible. So the coolest thing ever, and I honestly, this coronavirus virus crisis. In the middle of all of this, I couldn't be more proud of this organization and everything we've been able to accomplish as a team, from the marketing department to you launching this TV show. It's extraordinary. And to, the education department for snapping their fingers. And within 4 days, we had all of the classes up and running. We have over 100 classes online. We have 442 students. And then in addition to that, we have 32 faculty. So we were able to reunite everyone within, a handful of days. And honestly, kudos to the entire education department because they absolutely killed it.
So you're doing classes on a virtual platform, as it were, master classes, regular classes. Yep. I think, Sid, if you want, I believe we have some photos of kids working. Yeah. So this is, you want to talk about what this is?
Yeah, sure. Let's see it when it pops up.
Yeah, there. So we have it's a master class. Oh, here's another one of a group of students all looking at each other.
This is actually our New Horizons program.
Oh, okay.
And so what's really great is that you were just talking to Clay about, working with students with disabilities. And for me, there was not an option. I wanted to make sure that we could provide the same opportunities and be inclusive with our New Horizons program. And those students were so happy to see each other, and to be able to provide them this opportunity is awesome. Yeah.
And I think you actually, because, I said we can talk all we want, but I believe we have a testimonial from one of your students. Can you tell me a little bit about, is it Nick that you sent? Who did you send?
Lisa and Nick, maybe from the New Horizons program?
Lisa and Nick. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you talk a little about who they are, and then we'll maybe run their comments.
Yeah, they're incredible. Lisa is the mom of Nicholas Popovich, and they're just the most lovely family. And Nick loves the New Horizons program and his family, and he really wanted to continue his classes. And for him to be able to see his friends online and kind of just keep going is the best thing ever, because it's consistent. And again, it's all about schedule and keeping that connection with the people that mean the most to you. So that's what we do.
Well, let's hear from Nick and Lisa directly, since I believe they sent us a testimonial, as it were.
Hi, my name is Lisa Popovich.
And I'm Nicholas Popovich.
And I just want to tell you how awesome it has been that Nicholas has been able to be in the New Horizons class online.
Because I love my friends, my teachers, and I love to be around with all my friends doing the singing and the dancing, and I'm thankful for being part of the New Horizons class.
Oh, that's great. And how many students in New Horizons?
There are 32, so it's extraordinary, and to be able to reach them all has been great.
Oh, that's great. Great. But that's not the only program you've done. One of the ones I think is really hilarious is the quarantines. Do you want to talk about that? Because I think people have been following us on Facebook have probably seen these videos.
Yeah, it was really, really fun, but it was a collaboration with my dear friend, MJ. Shout out to you, MJ. She came up with the name Quarantines, which is awesome. And then the idea was to just do mashups of the kids. And what I've learned from this, and from hearing from them certainly, is that it really is providing them an opportunity to stay connected with their friends, because so many of these kids that go to the academy, they're all family. And so they're having a blast putting these together. And a shout out to Lucia Williams for leading this kind of project for us, which has been great. But the fun part is that we launched a challenge all the way to Houston, and we challenged Theater Under the Stars and the Humphrey School teams to join us, and they sent us their video back in response. And then they called out the Munis. So we're waiting for St. Louis to respond. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, what
so
we've
gone national. Yeah, it's great to see these teenagers just having a blast,
Oh, that's
Something
great.
positive.
And that's great. And I guess the other thing we kind of talked a little bit, but the master classes that you started for the professional development program. Can you first talk about what the professional development program is, and then why these have been unique? And I think it's a unique thing that's happened.
Yeah, sure. The professional development program was designed to bring together the really serious students that want to, pursue this as a career long term. So they'll go to college for this, and then, with hopes to go to Broadway and perform professionally anywhere around the world, really. And so the goal was to bring these kids together and push them further, because I feel that the more you're exposed, the better you become. And so instead of being competitive with one another, it was a way for them to come together, support one another, and rise. It's very much the platform we follow at the Jimmy Awards. They gain so much more and they rise higher and they reach stardom and just self-empowerment and confidence when you're working with a group of kids that have those same kind of beliefs, wants, and desires.
Right.
So the professional development program is designed for that exact reason. So we thought it would be really, really cool to use our resources within the CLO at this time. And we started calling alumni to see if they'd be interested in, teaching the kids. And we had a bunch of responses, and our CLO alum and Broadway veterans have really kind of risen up to the occasion and are teaching master classes for us. It's incredible.
And and here's a picture of 3. These aren't just
Yes.
any average performers. If you want to talk about these 3 that have spent time with our students online.
Sure. So we have Ahmad Simmons and Lori Marinate. Hi, Lori. This is so great. And then Telly, which is awesome. And these guys have all performed in CLO shows. And then in addition to that, they have Broadway credit after Broadway credit after Broadway credit. So to be able to provide our students with the exposure to these kinds of, not only are they Broadway veterans, but they're educators too. They understand the value in giving back, and they truly are giving these kids an opportunity of a lifetime that they may not necessarily have had if this whole, I hate to say pandemic happened, but if it didn't happen, this may not have been an opportunity for the kids. So we're trying to make the best of it.
Yeah, I mean, suddenly now where a teacher is located, geography is not the issue at this point. And I know you're
exactly
lining
right.
up other people, and the students seem to be responding as we're going forward with it.
Yeah.
Arts, I guess I will ask it, it'll be a little self-serving. If someone's watching right now and their kid or their grandparent wants to be involved in the academy in this new approach, are you still taking students? Are we adding courses? What's happening?
We are. It's been really, really interesting because we've had several phone calls for people inquiring about private lessons. And so there's something that is a little bit safer for some of the students that may not have the self-confidence to be able to step up in front of a group of 10 or more, or even live in front of the teacher. So they feel a little bit more secure behind that screen. And we've had about 15 people register for private lessons. And so it's pretty interesting. Know that that's an option if that's a step forward to help any child become more confident in life and certainly their musical theater skills. But we are going to be looking forward to extending through June to provide our students with, again, that security and knowing that they have a place to go so that they can see their friends in a sense of home, away from home. And then we're looking to launch another entire masterclass series with some of our Broadway veterans. As much as Broadway is dark right now, we're going to raise the curtain up on our, CLO alum and Broadway connections and bring them home to Pittsburgh for our kids. So we're excited.
Oh, it's really great. And as like I said, I sometimes, when the academy was open, I would sneak over on an afternoon because that energy that's running, I mean, we could light up Pittsburgh with the energy of the enthusiasm and the idealism of those students. And I've, in my 6 years here, have now watched several grow up. I mean, Lucia Williams, you mentioned in his leading up the quarantines, was our baby June when I first got here.
That's right.
And her family. And yeah, I mean, seeing that home, which is really much like you said, what you've created, and to be able to make sure that that home doesn't go away just because we're in our living rooms, and pictures of kids staring at their computer with their tap shoes on and dancing in the kitchen, and and I think it's so great what you and your staff and teachers have done, and then even finding ways to expand it. I think that says a lot.
It's great. But you know what? I truly think it's all of us, right? And so you're making Lucia comfortable on the big Benedum stage. It's a bunch of different people and the CLO philosophy to make sure that everyone has, we welcome everyone with open arms, and we include everybody, and we make sure we provide you with the most positive experience, from marketing to development to ticketing. That's what we do. So it's all of us together.
And it's a lifetime of CLO for most people. I mean, these people that have come through and now are on the board because they were involved in the Gene Kelly Awards, or kids that are now performers or board members. I mean, it's just such an interesting, but when you have an organization, it's something that made me excited to come to CLO, but that had 75 years of history now next year. That it's generational, and when I go out to stores and places and people say, "Oh, my grandmother took me to the Melody Tent," and I'm like, "What's the Melody Tent?" I had to go back and read the history book, the 50th anniversary, to learn. But that sense of it being an institution, and it's one of the reasons we wanted to do this show, and the reason you're doing the online classes is the idea of a Pittsburgh without a CLO seems just something that just doesn't make sense, doesn't compute.
Yeah.
So we're finding all sorts of ways to do it in the midst. And I love that this staff and board and volunteers will do anything to keep musical theater alive in Pittsburgh. And now through this, I have no idea where people are watching from all over the world. So, and that you've challenged those kids at Humphreys and the Muni and it started in Pittsburgh, like so many great things, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's
so
what Pittsburgh does.
If people are interested, can they just go to the website and then connect their way through the academy? So pittsburghclo.org and reach out for the education information.
Through education. Yep, education information, and then you'll find us through the academy. We also have a Facebook page and all those fun things too. So you'll find us, but please don't hesitate. We can help you with anything that you need. Well,
I know it's only our first episode, but thanks again for being on. And we'll get you back, or maybe some of your faculty members to come on and talk about the shows. Really, the amazing work you guys do over there is a lot. And like I said, it's an energizing thing for me to experience. So thanks so much, Kiesha. Have a great day and enjoy a cocktail now at the end of the workday.
All right.
See ya.
Guys. Have a great time.
Wow, that was great. And now for special treat, a performer, someone you may have seen before at the Pittsburgh CLO. My next guest is Lara Hayhurst. Most recently, you saw her in Christmas Carol. She was the ghost of Christmas Present, as you see there at the Byam. That's our annual tradition. She was also in Xanadu at the Cabaret. I think we have a picture. There she is next to Drew Lee. There she is in blue as Calliope, the evil, if not so bright, stepsister. Maybe we'll talk about that. And something else we want to talk about, she's been involved in some new work projects with us. Untitled by Matt Schatz is a musical that was going to premiere this month. We've postponed it to October 29th so that people will get to see it. So maybe we'll talk a little about that. So now, direct from New York City, a local girl done good, Lara Hayhurst.
Hi,
oh, look at that. Who is that masked actor?
I had to wear my mask. My dad made this for me and sent it to me. So, thanks, Dad.
He knows your colors.
Shout out. He does. Yeah. He sent like a brown one and a pink one. And I was like, I wonder which one's for me and which one's for my husband.
Oh, and you're wearing your Xanadu shirt. Boy, you like to sport the colors. Thank you.
That's right. Of course.
So how are you doing? Everyone okay in your place there in the city?
Yes, everyone is doing well. We are all healthy, which is great. New York is a very strange place right now. Sociologically, I feel like it's a really interesting time to be here because it's never been like this in my tenure here. I moved here in 2003, so I didn't really experience what 9/11 was like, which I know a lot of people know and think about. But here it's very tumbleweedy. Well, I was training for the Pittsburgh half marathon before this because I was going to be in Pittsburgh doing Untitled, and I was going to run it while we were running, and it got canceled, which is a bummer. And I mourned it for a few days and then said, you know what, I'm going to keep training anyway, just to have something to do. So I've been out running, safely, carefully. And I've kind of made it my mission to run through those really crowded landmarks that we all associate with New York, like Times Square and Columbus Circle. I'm trying to stay out of the parks because they're already kind of busy. But the UN, I ran by the UN the other day, and it's just so interesting to see these really classic places empty.
Right.
Like there's no Elmo, there's no naked cowboy. It's empty.
Just you.
Yeah, exactly.
You made a comment the other day on Facebook when I was following you that you were singing and you could hear the footsteps bouncing off of buildings and you were the voice of New York, like singing your own soundtrack.
It's so wild. I was running up Fifth Avenue when that happened, and by all the designer stores that are empty, just like naked mannequins in the windows. And I was like, when will I ever be running by St. Pat's Cathedral and Rockefeller Center and be just hearing the echo of my own footsteps in the street? It's so strange.
Wow.
But goodness abounds everywhere. Everyone is really coming together, and the community is really strong here.
That's great. Now you're from the Pittsburgh area originally. You're a hometown girl.
Yes,
where'd you grow up?
Absolutely. I grew up in the North Hills in the Wexford area. I went to North Allegheny. Still have some family there. So
Yes, you come back now and then, and you've worked with CLO several times. I know you were in the first season I ever did. You were in Legally Blonde, my first season here.
yes, I
Yes.
didn't want the other shows to get jealous, so I pulled out my other show shirts too, so they wouldn't be sad. So there's Legally Blonde.
I'm so glad to know that you stop by the merchandise counter every time you're here. That's great.
We love some merch.
Now let's talk about Xanadu just a bit, because
Yeah.
I was really impressed with Xanadu because you were not a skater initially, right?
No,
I remember this,
not at
right?
all.
Can you talk about that audition process? Because that was fascinating to me to watch with Mark Burrell and Kate. And because not only did you have to sing and dance, then we brought you into skate.
Yes. Yeah. It was like a quadruple threat situation. But I mean, we were given the blessing of such a supportive team. Mark Burrell, our choreographer, like you stated, and Kate Galvin, our director, were so just game and on board. And, you know, the vibe in the rehearsal room and in the audition process was just like the best idea in the room wins.
Right.
So whoever was going to have the most cohesive, interesting, hopefully funny idea, you know, that's what we went with. But the skating was a challenge for sure. So
we're seeing some.
Oh, there it is. Hey, guys. Yes, there it is. Oh, I miss it. I was going to wear my roller skates for this, but that felt very dangerous in my small apartment because I still have them. That's so fun. Oh, Tim Brady. What a guy. He was so funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, the audition, we just kind of put on our skates and tootled around a very empty cabaret theater and just kind of saw what we could do. What are words? What we could do. And then once rehearsal started, we went to the roller rink out on Neville Island and had some private lessons and just kind of went from there. The scariest part of the set was the ramp that like went down. So once you conquered going down the ramp and not slamming into any patrons on your way down, you were good.
Good. And I do want to jump ahead just a little bit to Untitled because this is a world premiere that we've been working on for a couple of years, and you were going to be back, but we postponed it so the audience can see it, and it's currently out there. You know, you play a couple different people in Untitled. What is it about this this musical, brand new world premiere, that excited you to want to be a part of it?
Yeah, it's so exciting. First of all, it's a brand new musical and it's only 4 people, which I thought was super exciting, which means that everyone gets a really deep dive into their character or characters. I'm blessed to play 2. I think it's contemporary. It's really now. Matt Schatz's book and lyrics and music is so conversational and so funny. You know, it's one of those you kind of just feel like you're listening to an audiobook and something will catch your ear and you're like, what? It's really, really colloquial and just it really captures a universal feeling that I think we all can relate to as far as your industry. It's not just theater. You know, anyone who's had a boss will appreciate this. Anyone who's fighting for the underdog will appreciate this. Anyone who's a world-renowned pop star will appreciate this. Maybe Clay Aiken will appreciate this.
We'll get him to come sit in the front row for you.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I mean, we're very excited about the show. And again, it's new dates are October 29th through November 29th. And we'll be back in the studio for that. But you've been keeping yourself busy, I know, with creativity. I've seen some videos with you and your husband. Yes. I know you've also written a parody song that I think I'm going to be able to convince you to sing for us. You want to talk about the background of this song? And
Sure. Yeah, I wasn't feeling particularly creative in quarantine for like a couple weeks. I think it was just like fight or flight. We had to like get our ducks in a row and start to understand what was happening. And then once it kind of became the new normal, these kind of fun creative projects, you know, really give you an outlet and a way to connect to people, which is super fun. So yeah, my husband Trey and I have been doing weird videos. We started a YouTube page called Trey and Lara Try, where we just do absurd challenges and film them every week, like
Truth
eating
or
really spicy food. Next week, we may poll and have me choose a haircut for him or a hair color. We're thinking about that. But yeah, this song that I wrote, I do love to write and write parodies. I did that a lot in college at Pace University. And it just literally came to me one day. I was thinking about the current state of my hair and my clothes and what I was doing. And the current, when going to Trader Joe's is like your big pilgrimage for the day, like it's worth writing about. So it literally just popped into my head. One of my favorite songs forever since I was a little kid has been More Today Than Yesterday by Spiral Staircase.
Right.
Great addition to the My Girl soundtrack. So yeah, it's this parody about that song.
Well, would you finish up your time with us by sharing that?
Absolutely. I'm going to detach here.
All right.
All right. Can you guys still hear me okay?
Of course we can. We're great.
Great. Okay, cool. I'm going to hit play. Here we go. All right. Sorry, I'm getting my accompaniment queued up. It was waiting so long.
Live stream.
Right? Here we go. I don't remember what day it is. I have no concept what time it is. All I know is that I'm stuck inside to stay. And if I see you outdoors, better stand 6 feet away. Every day's a new day in quarantine. I'll hit up Netflix for Ozark and Tiger King. Watch Cuomo lead at 10 a.m. My mind starts to wonder if stimulus is true. When will my $2,000 come through? I'm wearing the same pants as yesterday. I probably will tomorrow. I didn't pluck my eyebrows yesterday. I absolutely will not tomorrow. Every day's a Zoom call with fam and friends. New link in 40 minutes when free streaming ends. The line to get in Trader Joe's is longer than Pandora. And if all my dreams come true, they'll have frozen food back too. Oh, I bought a box of red wine yesterday. It will be gone by tomorrow. I had a mental breakdown yesterday. I'll go back on employment tomorrow. Every day's a new day. This will not last forever. Socially we're distancing, but spiritually together. Donate to the Actors Fund. Support your local restaurants. Be patient with Amazon. Be kind and do your best, patrons. Adopt a shelter animal. Applaud med staff all over. Support the Pittsburgh CLO. Untitled in October. But every day's a new day. And know how much I love you.
Lara Hayhurst. Oh, if there was a studio audience, they would be applauding and on their feet. But it's just me in my living room. So we'll do this. But I'm sure online they're going crazy. Thank you for sharing that. I think there's a lot of true sentiment in that I've experienced myself. Except for the eyebrow plucking, but wouldn't miss a day. Wouldn't miss a day. Right there? Good. Yeah. So, well, thanks so much for being on the show, being our first Cabaret Moment guest. I hope it was okay. You enjoy it?
It was so fun. Yeah.
Well, good. Well, thanks for being with us and have fun. We'll see you very soon. Keep in touch. And we'll talk to you later.
In October.
In October.
I can't wait.
Laura.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. First episode's almost over. Thank you so much to my guests. I want to thank Kiesha and Clay and, of course, Lara. We'll be back next Thursday. I'm excited to have as my main guest for that Richard Thomas. You know him as John Boy on Waltons, Agent Gad on The Americans, and soon he'll be on tour as Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird. But Pittsburgh audiences were lucky to have him here as Ebenezer Scrooge in 2018's A Musical Christmas Carol, Pittsburgh CLO's annual Christmas holiday tradition. So I'm thrilled to have Richard come on the show. We're also going to have Olivia O'Connor talking about her segment of Spark the Conversation, and Billy Mason will be on as my musical cabaret moment. This show, of course, I couldn't have done without our team at CLO. I want to thank Steph for doing the graphics, Becca and Sid behind the scenes, putting all this together, and actually unveiling today our theme song written by CLO alumni composer Adam Overett, who wrote the Double Threat Trio. That's all I've got for now. Thanks so much for watching. Please tell your friends, come back. And of course, I hope your cocktails are tasty and your conversations interesting. See ya.